How many of our everyday expressions function in the same way, appealing logic on the surface, yet serving a deeper purpose? Hey, Leslie, how you doing?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
Good, I'm doing great.
What phrase do you usually use to wish someone well before they take on a major event?
I guess it depends who it is. My son is in a musical, and I'm sure I just said, I'm proud of you and I love you. But I didn't say what this episode is about.
Yeah, don't drop the quote too early. Okay. But that's interesting that you said, so before he went on stage, you said, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was no wishing of anything. It was just affirmation.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens.
Okay.
I was just proud of him for being in a musical because being in middle school.
Yeah, that's a huge feat.
It's terrifying.
And it's very vulnerable. That's an
vulnerable.
incredible step to take. That's cool.
So, what about you? Do you say anything to people before a major event?
I think I do usually wish them well in some sort of way, whether it's speaking, saying you're going to do great, it's going to go well, you're going to be good. I think I do usually speak positive affirmations. Even in my speech classes, if there's a student that's nervous, I usually say something like, you've got this, breath, you've got this. So as a form of wishing them well and also helping ground them to make sure that they're good to continue on.
It's interesting that you talk about public speaking and before people go up to speak. Students that I know are going to be terrified because I was terrified when I was in that class. And so I say to them, you are going to be terrified, and that's okay. That's a part of the learning process, is understanding what you feel like. So just validating their feelings. We talk about that in public speaking, like other than death.
Yeah.
Public speaking is the most terrifying thing.
I agree. I think it's important, and I do something similar, not right before their speeches, but within the class structure of making sure they know. Feelings of trepidation are normal, and you're not alone with that. Because it is important, I think, for people to understand that even though you're having these feelings, it doesn't mean that you stop. You can still work through that and continue on. And that's the purpose of the class, is to allow people to do that and have a safe space to continue on, even when they're terrified.
Why do high-pressure moments often invite language that's indirect, symbolic, or even paradoxical?
I don't know if we're the right people to answer this question, only because I don't think either one of us use a lot of indirect language and symbolic language. No. I know that we use it as culturally. I know that there are times that we do things like that, and maybe it's just our backgrounds, but I don't think either one of us actually use this type of language very often for high pressure moments.
I've been training people to be in high pressure situations for a majority of my life. And so I think direct just seems to work better.
I think so. So is it possible that direct language phrases like good luck or you're going to do well introduce a kind of psychological risk for people? I know that not everyone uses such direct language, right? So the reason why they don't, do you think that it has to do with some sort of psychological risk, and perhaps they heighten the expectations or make the speaker feel more vulnerable because they're using direct language? And maybe when it's not done correctly or efficiently.
I feel like some phrases like that are like buying a candle for somebody for their birthday. Do you really know? Or do you really understand the circumstance that they're going into? So it's generic where somebody says good luck, or it's like when you're walking down the hallway at work and someone says, you know, how are you doing today? But they don't actually want to hear it, like how we start the podcast. But I actually want to understand how you're doing, Leslie. Never take it as that type of how are you doing.
You're looking for a genuine response.
No, I think there are catchphrases and certain things that we say that are just built into culture.
I do think it relates to the statement that you said earlier, where you do validate students' feelings. So not maybe necessarily giving them indirect language, but direct language that doesn't necessarily wish them well, but validates their feelings. So I think using that allows for an understanding how to use that, when to wish someone well and when to validate their feelings in that moment, will allow them to not feel like there is a heightened expectation because those feelings are validated. And I think sometimes we do misstep when we just give those glossy responses or good luck, do well, you're going to be great. And we haven't done the work to ensure that we have the relationship with them where those words are going to land in a meaningful way.
Yeah. This is funny, but my parents came to a speech I gave, and my mom said, "Why would you want to do this?" And it really makes me laugh because a long time ago, I probably would have. I've been just public speaking for so long that I'm used to it now. That's probably something I would have said before I was trained in it.
And this is recently that she asked you this question.
Yeah, this is a year ago,
okay.
A year and a half ago. Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe we do have a unique perspective. Because the common person is going to look at anybody who's willing to put themselves in a vulnerable situation, whether it's singing in a middle school play or standing up in front of a huge audience and giving a speech.
Hello, curious minds.
Welcome to Quote Mining,
the bite-sized podcast where each week we explore where quotes come from by stepping inside
and shining a light around to see what's buried beneath the surface, see how they shape the way we connect, and whether they hold up in real life.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Leslie.
Some quotes shine immediately.
And some require excavation.
We bring the questions.
You bring your curiosity.
Ready?
Let's start mining. Today's quote: break a leg.
This is one of those phrases that sounds terrible, but means the exact opposite. Good luck, but let's make it weird.
Even though it started in the theater, we now collectively use this idiom to extend well wishes and positive outcomes to someone right before a big moment, whether it's an interview, presentation, or even a performance.
There are numerous theories as how to break a leg became a popular saying. It is believed that in live theater, saying good luck is considered bad luck. So instead, using logic based in superstition, people said the opposite. Another explanation comes from the bow that performers would take at the end of a performance, the literal bending of a leg after a successful show, meaning you performed well enough to receive applause from the audience. Lastly, there is a theory that comes from a stage's leg line, meaning once you cross past the curtains, where visual on stage, you are technically a performer and entitled to pay. So wishing someone would break a leg would actually be to hope that they get a chance to perform and to be paid.
So depending on what theory you believe, you could be engaging in superstition, declaring that the person will do well enough to take a bow, or just hoping that an opportunity presents itself for that person to even perform. So maybe at this point, it's just about ritual. Before high pressure moments, we rely on phrases like anchors, right? Something familiar, something to ground us. Language in these moments may become less about precision and more about stability. So does the meaning even matter anymore, or is it just the intention behind the meaning or the word?
We give meaning to words, so the words don't actually matter. It is the meaning behind them. It is how the person takes it as well, but as a culture, we put meaning behind words. We change the meaning of words.
All the time.
I know people who make fun of each other all the time, but their intention is love. It's like, that's their way of communicating with each other.
That makes sense.
How do such expressions persist across time? If their literal meanings are contradictory, what mechanisms sustain their usage?
So I think exactly what you were saying. I think it has to do with sometimes our personal relationship with the people that we're talking to. And sometimes it has to do with group identity. And for most of us, we desire to fit in. We want to belong to different groups. And so using popular terms signal that we understand social norms and we can engage with particular community and understand the rules of engagement for a certain given social context. So whether it's the sibling banter that I often do with my siblings out of love, but from the outside looking in, it looks like
that way.
Exactly. But for us, in our social context, that works, right? But I'm not going to use that same language because the rules of engagement are going to be different when I'm at work or even with my spouse. I don't banter with Oscar the way that I banter with my brothers. So is ambiguity in language a flaw or a feature, particularly in moments of heightened stakes? The ambiguity of language and the way that it can change over time and just within contexts, it can change.
It's a good thing. Culture grows, words start to take on different meaning, and in high impact situations, the way you communicate with yourself, intrapersonal communication, the way that you're communicating with others is going to impact how that event goes. I've read a little bit about sports psychology.
Okay.
And just like how people communicate with those individuals to make sure that they're performing at their highest level. So you actually have to know the person to get them to perform at Olympic level or professional level.
It goes back to the idea of generic statements only work to a certain extent, right? And then for your well wishes and your words to really land effectively, you're gonna have to have a relationship with that person to have a unique way of being able to encourage them.
Did you ever watch Biggest Loser when it was on a long time ago?
Occasionally.
Yeah, because there was like two coaches on there, Jillian and Bob.
Yeah.
And if Jillian would have been my coach, I would have dismantled completely. Like,
that wasn't your style.
It was not my style. But if Bob would have been my coach, I would have been like, okay, I can work with this.
Hey.
It's a little more gentle communication that's working in like a high impact situation. It's going to change how I experience it.
I think it's important for people to know themselves, to know what they prefer, because otherwise you're going to take whatever people are giving you and it may or may not work, right? And so it does require us, again, to have that introspection, to be able to understand ourselves enough to know what type of motivating voices we need around us and what type of language we have to use on ourselves to continue to push ourselves forward.
And it's not a high impact situation, but if I put the dishes away at the house, like I want a ticker tape parade. And Erin knows this about me.
Does she usually put the dishes away just so that she doesn't have to deal with all of that?
How about you and Oscar?
Oscar is so direct in his communication anyway. I would prefer a little bit more fluff, but that's not who he is. And since I know that about him, I never take it personal when it's just direct. He would probably prefer if I was more direct, but most of the times I'm not, because that's just not how I naturally communicate. And at home, I'm going to communicate in my most natural sense, unless I'm really being mindful about something, and then I will come to him in his preferred style. This has been Quote Mining.
Exploring what we say,
so we can better understand what we mean.